Welcome everyone. On behalf of Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage INTACH and the INTACH Conservation Institutes, I extend a very warm welcome to our distinguished speaker, Hala Elsayed, and everyone who has joined us for today's talk in the Conservation Insights 2020 lecture series. I'm Dr. Padma Rohila, Director, ICI Delhi. Our speaker today, Hala Al Said, is the head of the team work of textiles conservation at Human Remains Laboratory in Conservation Center at the Grand Egyptian Museum, Giza, Egypt, since 2015. She has previously worked at the Swiss National Museum and Egyptian Textiles Museum. She has been part of many projects, including restoring the Potter Bowl in Xining Gold League Museum in Inner Mongolia, China, and the Egyptian Museum of Cairo Coins Conservation Project. She has a bachelor's and a pre-master's in archaeological conservation from Cairo University. The title for today's talk is 3D Mounting of Pharaonic Tunic from Babel Gasus tomb. The Pharaonic Tunic was excavated in Deir El Bahri, the second cache of the priests of Amun in 1891 by Grebaut and Daressy and was on display in Egyptian Museum in Cairo. The linen tunic suffered damages and losses due to wrong display methods. A new display and scientific mounting was designed, supported by the scientific norms of textiles conservation. The talk today will discuss how the old display was changed into a new 3D mount. Before I request Hala to present her case study, may I please request all of you to mute your microphones. Please type in your name, organization name, and email ID in the chat box, and also the questions. We'll be taking those right at the end of the talk. Over to you, Hala, now.
Hi, how are you, everybody? I am Hala Ahmed. I am a special conservator of textile since 8 years ago. So I will share with you my. This is my mail. If anybody want to speak with me or ask me any question after the lecture, okay. Now we speak about old Pharaonic tunic from Babel Gasus cache. This is cache or this excavation. It's from Deir El Bahri in Luxor in Egypt. This is called a second cache of Deir El Bahri or the cache of Prestes of Amun. So first we speak about this excavated. It's being with by Darcy and the Grebaut in 1891. In this time, Darcy was numbered all the coffins in the tomb with A numbers. So we didn't know about all the coffins in this excavated, all the information about it. And the number of the coffins in this excavated is 254. This is our tonic in the cabinet. As you see, it is attached to background of the cabinets, like and have a lot of more of textile in it. So it have a lot of damage in this case. So in this presentation, I show you the case study of this tonic and what the steps of conservation, what we are doing in it. The description of this tonic in the database of the museum is being a fragments of tonic with the opening of arms and head, and excavated by Darcy and Grebaut in 1891. First step in the conservation was make documentation for this textile. First documentation is by our eyes. It's a tonic linen yellow, which open from arms and necks, and have a lot of missing parts and recti, and show him of him some spots from stain and dust and resin, a lot of resin in it. This is some fragments and resin spots. In the conservation work, we didn't remove the resin because it share the edge of the excavation or the tomb. This is the photo of the tonic after we come from the display to the conservation lab. In this photo, you can see that the tonic have a lot of damage in it, like a lot of missing parts and stress in the end of the tonic, and have a lot of colors in the body. So we discuss all this with you. First, we take the length of the tonic. All the tonic it's have 2 meters and 49 centimeters nearly, and the width is 1 meters and 20 centimeters nearly. We have opener neck. Shut we have 20 to 17 centimeters nearly, and it had a tied knot in it. We discuss a tied knot in the other slides. The wave structure of this tonic is the warbs and weft are made of unpigmented linen, and it has the span. The yarn count is nearly 17 in weft and 24 in warp per centimeters. The wave structure in this tonic is the simple structure is 1 to 1. There are selvage in the end of the side of one of the side of the tonic. First problem we have in the documentation of this tonic, we found some stitching under the opening of the arm by 17 centimeters, and we didn't know it is old restoration from the age of the using of this tonic, or is this a decoration because we found it in the same side of the surface of tonic in the other side. So we mix up documentation in this, and we found that the left side of this stitching, it have the tall 13 centimeters and width 3 millimeters nearly, and it have in it 47 stitches with 2 millimeters between all one of these stitches. And we take a photo of this under the microscope. In this photo, you can see that the space between the stitch is nearly the same. Uh, this the right side of this stitching. You found the right side. That the tall of this is 10 centimeters, and it have 3 millimeters at width, and it have in it 43 stitches with 2 millimeter between all one of them. In this case, we can say, but we're not sure yet, that almost it have the same tall nearly and the same number of stitching in this case. Maybe so we can say that maybe it's decoration. Maybe this tonic to woman, not to man, and this stitching was to shape the body of the woman, but we didn't know yet if it's sure or what. And this is photo to the other side of this decoration. So we can speak here about the damage of the tonic. It have a lot of missing parts, as you see, and I tell you that it have a lot of color in it. This color, it's maybe the dust. After we clean it, we see that is all of this is dust from the display. We have stress in the end of the fibers, as you see. We have a lot of spots from resin or dust. You can see this is the spots of resin. We take a photo of the resin under the digital hand microscope, and this photo of the dust. We found it in yarn, as you see, and in the support under the tunic. The first step of this conservation uh, pointed is we decided to make new support for this tonic. New support as the same as the textile as the tonic made of linen. So we came with a new linen support, and the first step in this dyeing is first pass. We put the new textile support in water with boiling point 3 times later to clean all the dust, all the materials, industry which are made to make sure that the pores is uh, is uh, is now it's received all the dye from the past dyeing. The second pass in this in these steps is the pass of dyeing. It's we using here natural materials like the tea or the tea and couch. Tea and couch make a colors between yellow and brown. It is the same colors of all maybe all the object from Pharaonic period. So we preparing the pass of dyeing by uh, by grinding the couch and put it with the tea leaves in a web of textile and put it in the water with boiling points to extract all the dyeing from these plants. So after this, we remove the textile from the first pass and put it in the second pass with boiling points and make it sometimes in it. After we finish this pass, we have 2 ways. First way, if we have sure that this is the same color of our object, so we can put the fixer pass in it. Or if we have no, that is the same color because the color is lightest than after the textile is dried, so we can dry all this textile, and then after we finish it and make sure that is the same color, we put it again in the 3 pass as a fixer pass. So a fixer pass in this point is uh, potassium sulfate and aluminum. We make it in the with water. We put it in water as 25% from potassium sulfate and aluminum, and then we can put it in the second pass or the pass of dyeing and let it one day in it. After this, we can drying all the textile and using it in our conservation now. The first step in the conservation work now in the object is a mechanical cleaning. In this step, we using vacuum and whip, which have pores bigger, so we can using nylon net in this case. And in our case here, we have a damaged tonic or a damaged textile. So we can using a two layers, not one layer, one of them, which in the surface of the textile, it nylon net, and another it have a smaller pores from the first layer. It's being from cotton, and we can using in this low section of vacuum by using it as spots in the textile, not as tall of the textile. We using it as small spots and remove it, and another spots and remove it, to make sure that the fiber it didn't have any damage in this step. In this, you can see that is the clean area or clean corner here, and another we can see the dust which remove in the two layers of nylon net and the cotton. After we finish the mechanical cleaning, we should, because we should roll all the object, because in the case of this tonic, we have a big size of tonic. So we're using a roll of carton acid free and the tissue paper in all step of our conservation work, to make sure that we can clean all the textile, and then we can flat all the object. The next step or the second step of the conservation in the object is flattening the fibers or the textile. You can see in this photo the difference between before and after flattening the fibers. In this case, and in this case, we have depended on two ways. We have a lot of ways in flattening of textile, but in this we have two ways. First way, it's by using in the two ways we can using distilled water and alcohol easily as 13 to 17% in the same ways. In the first way, we're using it by using cotton and wood stick, because the surface in this case is so damaged and have a lot of fragments and a lot of small fragments. So we can't using the step number 2 in this. We using the first way. And after we wetting all the textile in the area that we are work, we reshape first all the yarn to the correct place, and then we put glass in it to make it dry in the correct place. The second way in this is using Gore-Tex and blotting paper. Gore-Tex is a kind of textile which have two surfaces. One of them that we are put in the surface of the object have small pores in it, and another surface that we are putting blotting paper in it have a bigger pores in it. So we take the Gore-Tex in this case, take a water and alcohol that we are set first to the surface of the object, but it put small water in this. After we wet all the surface in this case, we put a glass in it to make it dry in it. In this photo, you can see the second way in your right, and it have there is small pieces that we didn't finish yet, because we work in this as pieces. And the first way in the right, you can see that the all fragments, or small fragments, and the damage are flattening in this by the first way. This is a photo after we are flattening all the object, and we rolled in the top of the photo. You can see that we are rolled other face or another face of the textile. After this, we have these steps. These steps is so important because in this we equipping the textile in the new support. We should make sure that all the yarn in the object is with the correct yarn in the new support. So we rolled the textile or the object with mylar or polyethylene layers, and then we put it in the new support. And after we we equipping that the textile or the object in the correct place in the support, now we can roll again the object and remove the mylar and polyethylene and roll the object again in the same correct place. After this step, we can, to make sure that the final result, we can make sure all the fragments and the small fragments in the correct place in these steps. And this we start to stitching it. We using in the stitching here small needles, and we using yarn silk. It's called hair silk. This yarn is being as out is being white, and then we dyeing it with the same natural materials which are using in the dyeing of the support, to make sure that the color of this yarn is like the color of the object. This is this side. After we finish the stitching, we stitch, as you see, all the fragments and all the lost area, all the small pieces of missing parts. All of this with the stitching with new support. This stitch of this tunic take 1 year. 1 year stitching it. In this, you can see that is the stitch in this tunic we are using is bridge. As a basic of our of the stitching of the textile, we should make sure that the stitch is with the correct space of yarn of width and warp. As you see, it is the same shape or the same place with the yarn of width and warp in this object. This is another side. In this side, we can't using polyethylene or similar because it have a lot of fragments and a lot of damage in it. So we using silicone paper to make sure that the correct place of the fragments and the object to the support. After we make this, we equipping that the fragment is the same correct place, then we can remove the silicone paper in this case and start stitching like the other side. In the photo in the right side, you can see that it have a lot of damage of textile in this. So in this case, if we want to stitch this object to the new support, we have lost a lot of fragment in this. So we have another way in this case. We using a new support as a surface of the textile or the object. It's from crepeline. Crepeline, a kind of silk. Uh, uh, it came like a yarn and a new support with white color. So in this case, we can using it after we dyeing it with natural materials more. So we using it as a support of the surface of this case. In these small pieces, we have now this technique. It called a sandwich technique. It's by putting the object between two layers of support. Maybe it is being the same support, or maybe in this case, we have the different support. So the object now in between the layers number one, it's from a new linen support, and put the object in it as a second layer, and then we put the third layer from tripline, and then we can stitching the third layer tripline in the first layer, the linen support. We can stitching between the missing part and between the fragments of textile, and then we can stitch the edges of the crepe line. The second, this is the second problem in the documentation of this tonic. The first one, as I said, is a stitching that we didn't know is this decoration or stitching or illustration. The second one in this case is the head. We have in this tied knot, but we didn't know is this tied knot from excavated from the old display in the Giza Museum or the display in Egyptian Museum in 1950. We didn't know, but this tied knot have a damage responsible for a lot of damage in the textile and missing parts, as you see in the two photo. So we discuss and decided to loosen this knot. We in this photo you can see we loosen this knot, and then we flatten this selvage, and then we stitching it in the correct place in the surface of the object. The last step is in this tonic is preparing new mounting to this tonic. As you see in the first step, this tonic with botting is attached to background of the cabinet, and this in this and it putting in 2D mount. It's not good and have a lot of damage of tonic about this old display. So we decided to change the cabinet and then we decided to make the tonic in 3D mount to make the visitor see the other side of tonic and the technique of closes in this time. So you can see in this photo, Mr. Ahmed Arabi is the director of display in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. It's decided to make the new support or 3D mounting by using plexiglass as a first layer or a hard layer in this step. She take a size of the width of tonic, and then he cut a plexiglass, and then he carving and he carving he carving uh, Isa foam acid free as a second layer in this case. To make a shape like a half circle, like the same shape of the human shoulders. In this, you can see that the carving of this is a foam. After this step, we collect the plexiglass with the ISA foam with stretch, and then we take the size of this and cutting polyester felt to make this mount is so soft to textile. As you see, we put it a lot of pieces of polyester felt acid free in this shape, and then we collect all of these layers with typhic textile. After we collect this first with with stitching the typhic textile. We didn't use any adhesive in this case. After we stitching all the typhic, we using the strips from linen textile to make sure that the tonic not slip from the mount. And then we using tube of plexiglass to hold it onto um, wooden path to make sure that that is the soft and is so supported and to the tonic. And then we using wiring from a fishing line to stabilization the tonic to the wooden path. After restoration, we change the tonic or the height of the tonic change from 2 meters and 49 centimeters to 2 meters and 60 centimeters nearly, and the width is still 120 centimeters nearly. And one of the side of the tonic higher height 1 meters and 26 centimeters, and the other sides 1 meters and 34 centimeters. The third problem in the documentation in this tonic is uh, that is the shape of the tonic. We know that is the tonic is a form of clothing which was worn both men and women and she closed or it closed from the two side or one of side of it. So in this tunic, we found some stitching, as you see in the photo. It in the edge of the side of the tunic under the arms, in the two side. So in this stitching, by this stitching, we can say that this tunic is opening from the other side. So we closed it again, but in this case, we don't close the object. So we closed the new support that we are doing as you see in this photo. From the other side, we closed this. And this the last display after the tonic go to the new cabinet. This tonic in the first they display in Egyptian museum, and after restoration we know that they go again to the display in Egyptian museum, but now she go to another grand museum to display in it. You can see in this is one of the service of this, and this is another one. So I can say some knowledge to Mr. Mu'min Osman, is the director of our conservation lab in this time, but now he is the director of all the museum in Cairo, and Mr. Ahmed Arabi, the director of the display in museum, in Egyptian museum, and Mr. Nasser Ahmed is a special conservator of textile, which helped me more in the steps of this conservation case. And Mr. Salah Hamdan is a conservation on the conservator of wood, which helped with Mr. Ahmed in a new mount. And this is my mail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hala. A nice way of describing the presentation. I don't see any questions. Any questions? Please type them in very quickly. I just had one question. What was the kind of display that was there earlier? You did say that it was displayed earlier, and because of the old display, it had suffered. So how was it displayed earlier?
What
Yeah,
I can't
was
hear
it?
you. I'm sorry.
I said how. What was the display of the tunic earlier? What was the old display like? We didn't see any images. Was it like lying flat, or was it hung from something?
It's a flat 2D, as I show you in the first slides.
Hmm.
It's have more layers of